So another Fat Cats podcast today with the Fat Cats, myself in fly half. Back after Dungu had his shot at the number 10 jersey. The coach dropped him, and I'm back. Ruben Kiuro with fellow Fat Cats Edwin and Bruno. And a very, very distinguished guest, Ernest. Ernest, how are you?
I'm okay, man. Thanks, Ruben. Thanks for the Fat Cats. Thanks for inviting me. I would like to ask, am I not the first skinny man on the Fat Cats podcast?
Is he?
Chisano is more
Could be.
skinnier than you.
Chisano is
The skinny man.
Plus Louis.
Louis
I
no
don't
longer
understand
identifies as a skinny man.
why people still keep saying that Louis is skinny. Do people actually look at Louis when they're
Exactly.
saying that?
He's a
People
buff
have been
daddy.
saying Slim Daddy, happy birthday, Slim Daddy.
That's it.
Happy birthday to one of our Fat Cats.
I'm honored to be the
Louis
first
Semuju.
skinny man on the
Yes, and
on the Fat Cats podcast. I hope it doesn't turn me into a fat cat in the
I'm
near
going to weigh you
future.
after the show. So.
before and after. And after also the meals of the Fred and Winnie B&B,
Yes.
you might be heading in a different direction.
Yeah, bro. I think I remember when you and Edwin were rugby players, and now
Now what?
you've shifted slowly from the double numbers
happened.
12, 13, 10. Now it is 5, 4, probably 1 and 2.
Me, I'm a one. No shade.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
thanks for having me.
Yeah. The heavens have let loose, but still, nobody is going to stop rugby and rugby conversations. We are going to start with the Entebbe Sevens that happened over the weekend, which was a one-day tournament, contrary to what we've been having before, I think from last season, and also coming into the Wakiso Sevens. So I'll start with you, Ernest. Having been there, what was your recollection of the Entebbe Sevens? What were your thoughts? There was so much that was going on, from walkovers that teams gave out to much more.
First of all, I went to the Entebbe Sevens as a journalist, and I began the day as a head coach. Then I became a team manager. But it's more of some of those things that you have to do for your club. My club is Pirates, and there were a few hiccups in their getting to Entebbe, so I had to step in. And even after that, I enjoyed the experience, so I asked coach if I could continue with the role as TM, and they allowed me. So I was very honored to be TM. Maybe just the one thing I could say about the whole circuit is that I managed one game and I won it. So probably the only coach in Uganda with a 100% win record against Box. We won that game 5-0.
Down one man.
Yeah, we played the whole tournament, the whole game with 6 men. But then, on the whole, Entebbe was, I think, maybe it's too early to say it, but our 7 circuits could be shaping up to be like we saw across the border in Kenya. 2 circuits, 2 different winners. In fact, 2 circuits, 2 different teams in the main cup final. Or 4 teams in the main cup final. So it's shaping up to be a rather exciting 7 series. And club allegiances aside, what we saw at Wakiso Sevens and then Entebbe Sevens, both hosted by Uganda Rugby Union, I think if the trend continues like this, we will have more rugby to enjoy, different from the script that we've always had, which is a good thing. The weather threw the rugby off a bit, but that didn't stop the players from putting on their best. There were a couple of handling errors, left, right, and center, but I think the team that was most prepared that day, Heathens, came out on top. They arrived early, they won their games, they did the easy stuff, and they walked off continued all the way up to the final. I was happy that after a long time, I've never seen Ginger Hippos in a Sevens final. Probably they've been in some finals in tournaments that I've missed. But them coming to the final means that there's now that one step. If you read the work that I've been writing, I think Ginger Hippos should win a circuit, probably even the series. But it's taking them long, but this is a step. They've reached the final. Maybe next time they will get the main cup. On the whole, I enjoyed being in Entebbe.
Bruno, from a vibes perspective, tell us about Entebbe, the weather, the people, the action from your point of view.
I think I managed to go Entebbe early in the morning, but the vibes became so low on the side of players and fans when they were hit with traffic jam on the northern bypass for guys that wanted to use the express highway. I I was told it was because of some schools were closing on that day. So it also explains the walkovers that happened because four teams suffered the walkover. Pirates survived that, and they managed to win it with 6 players. And then it was nice being in Entebbe. It was a busy pitch because outside the pitch was a market, which happens every Saturday, I think.
Oh yeah, it was market day outside.
So it was a busy pitch. Guys who couldn't enter, maybe who didn't pay entrance, were still on the fence watching through the mesh. It was a nice, not until the weather, I think towards the quarterfinals.
Okay.
That's when it poured, but it wasn't that heavy because the fans still remained in the stands, watched the game, and the players also. The games continued as usual.
Yeah, so I would like to talk about that one thing that Bruno raises.
Yeah.
The teams getting to Entebbe. Of course, you wouldn't give it as a valid excuse because the
isn't a
teams
valid
from
excuse.
Ginger made it. Walukuba and Ginger Hippos
They were
were there
actually
on
the first
time.
on the grounds.
Yeah, they were there
even
on
before
time.
Mongers.
Mongers in Entebbe were there after the teams from Ginger. So it's not, I could say, valid excuse, but
Yeah.
these things happen in planning.
Yeah.
And on the ground, you could say we'll be there by 9 a.m., but something happens and it's outside your control. But 4 teams were unable to make it on time. That's Rhinos, Cobs, Pirates, and Box. Cobs and Rhinos were unlucky at the start that the time when their games were supposed to kick off, they were not yet there, so they gave away walkovers. And
Cobs gave it to Rams,
Cobs gave it to Rams,
and then Rhinos to Hippos.
Rhinos to Buffaloes. Rhinos to Buffaloes.
Yeah.
Yes, Rhinos to Buffaloes. Pirates, Box and Cobs arrived at the same time, but the Box game was a little late against Pirates. So by the time Cobs were arriving, they were late, but Box were just in time for their game against Pirates. And then the Pirates players who were able to made it because they traveled with the fans. And then the players who traveled with the team and the management came late. So that's how there's that whole...
Yeah, the four players that traveled with the fans made it, and then we found some who stay in Entebbe, Pirates players who stay in Entebbe.
That's how
Like a pirate bus is the one that had 4 players.
I could say.
Did the pirate bus go?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
It was
That's how-
ahead of
It's
the
actually a
players.
very great initiative that
Yeah,
you guys
that's
do.
how the players made it to those games, and you can tell from the results at the end of the day that disorganization is what affected them all the way until the end. Pirates dropped places. Rhinos performed better, but this was a 12-team circuit, so it's you could say on a law of averages they are the same. Cobs were at rock bottom 8th place, and they've maintained that. Same as the other team same as Box. Box placed last in Entebbe. So you can see that getting there late affected how they would have loved to play at the end of the tournament. And I think it's not a valid reason to give for a performance at the end of the weekend, but then it significantly affected how some of those teams performed. And the teams that got there early, like Heathens, like Ginger Hippos, like Walukuba, performed really well on the whole.
Yeah, so 2 different circuits we've had so far, and we've had 4 different teams in the finals. 2 teams in one final, 2 other teams in the other final. What does that have to say about this year's 7th circuit? Is it particularly that other teams are catching up to the big teams? Is it something about the big teams? Because we have seen a trend in previous National Sevens games where it's been either Cobs or Pirates. Actually, Heathens winning in Entebbe, I think, is the first time since the last time they were in Entebbe, which was 2013, as pretty much still a rookie around that time. But what are your thoughts on that, Ernest, before we hear from Edwin, who has been quite quiet?
So, first of all, 2 ways, yeah? As a player, as a person attached to a club, I would want to see my team winning everything. Yeah? But then when you look at it on a broader perspective, that the players who are like the cream of the cream on the national team, they are away, so we get to see more players. And this is what we looked forward to way before, in June, July. That's what we had hoped to see when there were the 15s guys were away, and then the 7s guys are away as well. we knew we would be seeing new players coming up. And these are the same players who are still standing up to be counted. MVP of the first circuit was Aaron Tuke. He may be part of the national team setup, but he plays for Buffaloes. And on a normal sevens weekend when everyone's available, you wouldn't have a mention of Aaron Tuke. Same as the team of the week that was from the Wakiso Sevens. We go to the Entebbe Sevens, and a player who would not identify as a sevens player, Joachim Kisano, puts up the best performance on the weekend by a country mile. Yeah, comes and puts up. He inspires his team to their first circuit victory in close to 10 years. Yeah, and you also see the team of the week from the Wakiso, from the Entebbe Sevens. I feel it is a good thing for us, because then we know our national team sevens has a core side of the sevens players, probably like 9 players. But then there's that gap between all the others. And then when you look at who is on the national team and who you would want to be on the national team, many people struggle to mention names that could be the next generation of sevens players. So this is a platform for the young boys, for the guys who are little known, the unsung heroes in those sevens teams, to stand up and put up their hand to be selected by the national team. And they're doing it. That's the one thing I'm happy about, that they're doing it. You watch Impis playing, and you can see that there's a young man called Roy who is doing well in finishing for Impis. You watch Ginger Hippos, and they've stood up with Jacob Ochen as well. Fine, he is a name that we can mention over and over again. Yeah, there's Timothy Mugisha is part of the national team fold. He has not made the team in the 2 years that he has been training, but you can see the difference that is between him and all the others. Look at Walukuba. They have put up very good results in the past 2 circuits. Walukuba have just been promoted, and they are doing well in there. And then we now go to teams like Mongas. Mongas are struggling, but then their consistent players are there. There's, I could say, Edgar Kairu. There's Chiche Morgan. They are still putting up performances that you think that you would not have seen on a random weekend when we have the players who are part of the national team fold.
I actually thought that the Entebbe Sevens would have been an opportunity for the Mongas to win something. In the pre-tournaments leading up to the National Sevens, they seemed to be one of the teams that really showed that they had made a lot of improvements. But I think when the business came in, also other teams raised their level. Edwin, anything to submit to how the games are looking and how the winners are coming up?
Yeah, me, Entebbe Sevens, key thing was... one, when I was asked by Mr. Dongo about the teams I thought would go all the way, I said Cobs, Pirates, Impis, and I threw in Ginger Hippos. So I'm the fat cat octopus. I threw in Ginger Hippos there, and they went in and played in the final. So that is number 1. Number 2 is that photo, that game against Hippos and Rhinos. We don't know what was happening. It's
3 different people.
What was going on. Photographic interpretation was key there, but I think a few people managed to decipher the picture and come up with it, explaining it. And then number 3 maybe is from a Fat Cat perspective. We had 2 of our panelists face off in the contact, Chisano and Ivan Magomba, and for us as Fat Cats were happy. But I mean, it's good to see.
We would need to bring Kisano back for him to tell us exactly what was going on in his mind in that carry.
That kind of should I call it disrespect for your captain?
No, there must. I've spoken to Kim and to Gomus, and in as much as they'll tell us like, no, it's how the game is played, and what I think there's some unfinished business.
Yeah, I think Chisano watched the previous podcast where Ivan was talking about how Pirates is the team, and other teams. He said what they have old backs, that it is only Pirates that can handle Nigos. So I was like, hey, we'll show you.
You see his step in the final when he gave a guy in out and he went outside. I was like, hey, okay.
But all these tries throughout the circuit were so nice. Yeah. Sidestepping. He also sidestepped. I don't remember. Must be Rams.
Chisano had a very beautiful tournament.
He really had a beautiful
Whatever he ate, he needs to keep eating that. But before we leave the Entebbe Sevens, just to give a shout out to our venue sponsor, Fred and Winnie B&B, who are located in Kisasi, a homestay featuring 10 self-contained private bedrooms consisting of 2 deluxe doubles, 3 standard doubles, 1 deluxe twin, and 2 standard twin bedrooms. The units come with a fully equipped kitchen, power backup system, Wi-Fi, laundry services, and a chef to cater to your every meal. Guests at Fred and Winnie B&B enjoy a sumptuous buffet breakfast with a choice of selected tropical fruits and juice. Pick up and drop off to and from Entebbe International Airport, as well as local transportation for getting around or for up-country trips can be arranged if booked in advance. For you to be able to get in touch with them, call the number 0752 693369. I repeat, call the number 0752 693369. Tell them a Fat Cat sent you, and you'll be able to get amazing offers. So, as we approach the final bit of this segment on the Entebbe Sevens, we've looked at quite a number of things, and we are looking ahead to the Arua Sevens, which will be after this weekend. This weekend being a break. Bruno, how are the standings thus far before we get into any other nitty-gritties on this?
The Pirates dropped points, of course. Just need to get the.
Yeah, I can see that the thunder is interrupting. It's part of the podcast today, so I'm sure people will bear with us. But
Pirates are still on top of the table because they had really performed well in the Wakiso Sevens at 37 points. Then, of course, the team of the circuit in Entebbe, Evans, came up and they are 34 points. And the Toyota Buffaloes, following their seniors, now at 32. Hippos, and still the bottom mongers, Walukba and the Warriors, they are the last 3.
Edwin, the Warriors are in third, last.
I'm coming back.
Edwin could be the savior for the Warriors in the sevens. I don't know how he's going to be moving around the pitch, but
just roll me on the side.
they had
Roll
a
into the
circuit.
next
They had a better circuit in Entebbe
Yeah.
than Wakiso. They're really playing nice, and
yeah,
I think-
hopefully Arua will favor them.
The one challenging bit that Warriors faced was they were walking off against Box in a placement game. I think should be the placement game for 10th.
yeah.
Yes, 10th, 11th placement game, semi-final. And they were walking off for their last pool game, Warriors Box. And then the very next game was the placement game
Still the same
for the
game.
quarterfinal. And the way the draw was set up, it was them. So they got off the pitch, and as they were going off the pitch, they were told to come back on. The protest was
There and
since
there.
They should have just remained.
since there's another semi-final that's going to be played, the other semi-final be played before ours, but then their appeals could not be heard. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that teams face in these one-day circuits, which I think Uganda could be the only one that's playing one-day circuits.
Ernest, I think you even remember last season, one-day circuit in Soroti. The final was in, like, the whole second half was in darkness.
In darkness,
I remember
exactly,
the
yeah.
final.
It was so
Sorry.
bad. I think we should try and avoid those one-day games.
And the other
as much
challenge
as
is on the quarterfinals as well,
Yeah.
moving to the semis. Now quarterfinal one.
who plays quarterfinal 4?
Yes,
Winner of the
they
quarterfinal
play
4.
and-
They
In
play
the
the
first
first
semi-final.
semi-final, meaning also that quarterfinal 4 winner connects
Not
straight.
less than 30
It happened.
minutes.
It happened in Entebbe because now the Pirates had to play Heathens, and Heathens had a break of like 1.5 hours, and Pirates had rested for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
You mean
so
my
if
names
you-
were just all.
It's okay if you play.
Were wasted.
If you play, of course, they were from the same pool. So if Pirates had won, that means it would have been Heathens in the what in
In the tight
in
situation.
a tight situation. Yeah,
Right.
but the winner from quarterfinal 1 plays the winner from quarterfinal 4 in semi-final 1.
Yeah.
On any one day, it will never be fair for the team that has won quarterfinal 4. But it's just the way it is, and very few teams, I've seen very, very few teams play quarterfinal 4 and semi-final 1 and actually go ahead to win them. It's very, very rare on day 1 tournaments. And it's going to be the same story in Arua. It's a one-day tournament. The guys will have traveled for up to 8, 10, 11 hours. You go to Arua and you play rugby. You play 5 games. You play 4 games. And then you have the semi-final and the final. 6 games in a day. It's going to be very tough.
But now
one day circuits are going to be very
clubs
tough.
have to plan very well, and because Arua is so far, it's close to 10 hours drive. So I think clubs will have to reach earlier in the day.
I think the best bet for Arua would be a day before. But then a day before takes us actually to what we're going to talk about next, is the fact that there have been so many complaints on social media that, you know what, man, you guys are telling us to do this to be here on time, but where's our money for facilitation? Where's our money for transportation? What's the issue with that? Yet there is supposed to be a budget for that. So we do, and I don't know if this is true. I'll still put it on the rumor bit, but also the fact that many of these teams apparently haven't gotten their money from last season. So I don't know how, Edwin. Any thoughts on that?
It's a dire situation for clubs. I can imagine if me as a fan I wanted to go to Aroa, how much I would have to part with to accommodate myself, put in fuel in a car, maybe service the car before and after.
Feeding.
Yeah, or even using a bus ticket. Yeah, and I go to Aroa, how much, then feeding and the like, how much it would cost me as a person. Roughly, it would come to maybe, let's say, 800 if I'm being really extravagant. Myself, for my comfort. Now imagine a club of 12 players, or coaching staff, physio,
Medic.
social media manager. You see, all those things, it becomes really an expense. You look at the club and you'll have to part with maybe 5, I'm saying even 5 maybe on the low side, but 5 million for that whole project. Also considering you have to give allowances, you have to make sure you have training, and at the same time travel, have a fueled vehicle, have a contingency plan in the event that the vehicle breaks down, travel on Thursday preferably, and then get there maybe Friday morning or Thursday night if you have players who can afford to take that break of Friday. I mean, the clubs are really going to suffer. I don't know.
I think
and sponsorship also as well. It's a
in
big thing.
my view, and we've had some of these conversations with some people. In my view, the growth of the game, Uganda's need for growth of the game has come at the cost of sustainability for the clubs. In the sense that, yes, we want to have these 2-day circuits. Already we've started with 1-day circuits are hard, and we want 2-day circuits. But our teams cannot afford to have 2-day circuits because of the costs that involve having people and the resources that you need for those 2-day circuits. They cannot afford that. And now, so we are looking at 1-day circuits. The challenge now becomes where we are holding those 1-day circuits. We want the game to grow beyond Kampala, and that's amazing. Yeah, but it's leaving teams. They are digging one pit to fill another one, and the pits that they're digging are becoming bigger and bigger. Last year, I went to Soroti and Gulu and Kabale. This year, we're going to Fort Porto and Arua. We could have gone to Mbale. That's even farther than we went last year, and the costs keep increasing. Of course, the teams would expect some money from their sponsors, from their partners and everything. But on the ground, it's quite difficult for teams to receive money from these corporations, from these individuals. So how are the clubs running? There are people who are putting in the money, the guys who run these, who own the clubs, and then the guys, the individuals, the well-wishers of these teams. Some could be coaches, some could be former players, some could be even current players are putting in their money so that the clubs can show up and play those games. I would think that one of the things that's affecting our sport, and we will always have these discussions time and time again, they always keep coming up. The people who are putting in the money know there's no money to put in. The people who are supposed to be receiving the money, so let's say the players, the guys for whom the resources are being collected, think that the money is there but it is not reaching them. And in the past, I want to believe that they were on the same table and they understand, right, there's no money, but you can come and play. Yeah, when the money comes, we'll give you your money. But now the people bringing in the money are saying there's no money, and the guy is supposed to play or receive the money or supposed to show up, or let's say maybe the union is telling the clubs that you have to be here. They do not believe that there's no money. What do you mean there's no money? Yeah, and
9.8.
There's the 9.8 billion. There's 9.8 billion. What do you mean there's no money for us to go to Arua? What do you mean you're giving us? I saw claims last week. What do you mean you're giving us 300,000 for a weekend? There's supposed to be more money, but on the ground things are different. For us on this other side of the wall, and most times this Uganda Rugby, the fraternity is heavy on the internet, and on the ground it's a bit different. The people who are on the internet are wondering, the money was received, the money, they said there's money, but how come there's no money? And that's what's causing problems. There's that whole seesaw of there's money, there's no money, there's money, there's money. We want to grow. and then now the people are saying we shouldn't go to Arua, it's like you're against the growth of the game.
Yeah.
And until everyone is on that round table and they understand where each and every person is coming from, the needs of the guys bringing in the money and the needs of the guys who are supposed to receive that money or who are putting their bodies on the line or providing these services, until they all agree on the situation where they are, we're still going to have the same discussion, even 10 years from now.
Well, as we get away from the Entebbe Sevens, just a shout out to Joaquin Kisano, who was the MVP, and he was also the first Fat Cats Dream Team MVP as well. And also a shout out to Arnold Atukunda, who is currently the top try scorer. Notably that he did not score any try in Entebbe, so he has 9 tries from the Wakiso Sevens. He pulled a hamstring.
It was a groin injury.
He pulled a groin in the
game.
first game. So that is just to show you the impact of what he did. And he has been nicknamed Safe Border, so you can probably check the app and see if you can order for another.
One was always passing.
And interestingly, a border has just passed. That could have been Adol Atukunda.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to schools rugby. There was schools rugby midweek, yesterday I should say. For those that are watching it, that is Tuesday. The first thing that caught my eye is, why was it on Fufa TV? Why not Kawowo? Why was it on Fufa? But that plan me. But I was like, you know what? At least they are showing rugby. Let me chill.
It's more of, man, our sport is in a difficult place in terms of this is an organization which has shown up to grow, because there's also football happening, yeah, and Fufa TV. And thankfully, we are really, really thankful.
Yeah, I know, man.
But we shouldn't be in such a position to start with. But we're thankful that there's actually a chance for us to watch these games. If the schools games are being broadcast and if the national sevens games are not being broadcast, definitely the schools games will not be broadcast. We're just fortunate, we're just lucky that there's someone who was able to provide the service. Whether it is for free or at a cost, we do not know yet. But then at least we're able to watch these games. The one thing I find unique or interesting is that the games have not been played all on day one. So that's a good thing, that the students are getting to play rugby over different days. However, there's a day in the middle. So they played on Tuesday, skipped yesterday, Wednesday, and they've played today, Wednesday. The other good thing I like about the schools league, and I think we'll get to see some of the results as the tournament goes on. Teams are performing well. First of all, I'm proud of my school, Entebbe School. We're doing well. We're still unbeaten on the second day, and we've played some really, really worthy opponents. I'm surprised that SMAC, who did not participate, I'm not surprised, but then I would have expected them to pick themselves up much quicker. They did not participate in the schools games in the central region, and they've gone for nationals, and that gap of not having played in the schools league this year, so that means they've not played rugby from 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beginning to show. That absence from active rugby is beginning to show in how they are playing. But kudos to Ginger Hippos, kudos to Hana Mixed, Ginger SS, which has many Ginger Hippos players, and some from Walukuba. Kudos to them and how they are playing. I think going to the final will probably have Hana, Ginger SS, and probably Intare. There's a school from Masaka which has sent 2 teams for this tournament. So that's good for grassroots rugby as well.
It's how with you, but and it's just great to see that there are a lot more sides playing rugby, and also some of the teams that ordinarily wouldn't have been as good are now playing better. And Terry, special mention, and the smarkists, the joy it gives me, and I'm sure Edwin as well, to see them suffer.
No going this time.
No going toss.
It is not enough that you should not win. They should lose as well.
Yes. So, any other submissions on the schools rugby before we jump from that? All right, gentlemen. The big one, the Challenger Series. So we had our boys, who I should say were received like heroes today. We're going to talk about that, but let us first talk about the action. All the way from the Commonwealth in Birmingham, they flew to South America, Chile, where they were able to get a shot at being part of the HSBC World Series, but unfortunately we came up short. I'll start with you, Bruno. What are your thoughts about the tournament in general? What were your highlights, and what maybe pissed you off about that tournament?
I'll start with what pissed me off.
Really?
It was the game against Germany. I mean, Edwin will talk about the calls. He has them, he has the clips, has been talking about it, but it was such a horrible night, man. Waking
Yeah.
up to watch the game and the calls that were made and the moods of the players, it was so bad. You could even feel the tweets that were sent by the players on their accounts. It was so bad, but I was also glad that after that, we managed to pick up and play the next games and we performed better. So it was a nice tournament. And for me, one thing that makes me proud is how these players have been really good from the Commonwealth and the resilience and how fit they are. I see on social media guys have really stepped up to thank Timo Mudola and the work he has done. The boys are so fit. That's the one beauty about the games we played. And you can also now trust any other games and any other tournaments or friendlies that the Sevens will be involved in. The boys want to win. The boys want to win. That's you can even tell from their movements, their tackles, their attitude on pitch, how communication on amongst them on pitch is. It's beautiful to watch, and to me, I still think this is the best Sevens team we've ever watched, the national team, and yeah, very proud of
Even better than the one
boys.
that beat France.
Which
Yeah, so
was
anyway.
that 2004.
Yeah, how about
Sevens.
Wafula giving us
the-
that information?
The one
that
that
is a
beat
sevens
France didn't
team.
go for the World Cup. So
Fair point, but there was no Sevens World Cup also. So.
there was,
I don't
surely
think
there was. There has to have been.
Yeah.
There was no Sevens World Cup at that time.
2003?
The
You
Sevens
can
World
check.
Cup is a very recent tournament, by the way.
You can check.
We'll check.
We'll check, yeah.
Anyway, Edwin. So he has shared his sentiments about the game. I'm sure we're all wherever we're watching from. Personally, I was at a certain place with a certain few people, consuming a certain bunch of beverages. Very emotional night. Like I was in a frenzy celebration. Like let us order out the bar. Oh, I've given myself there. But then all of a sudden, in seconds, a win turns into a loss. What were your thoughts? I remember we had an argument about that a bit, but man,
There's nothing as painful. I watched the game. I was in my house. I watched it. I couldn't believe what I had seen. I managed to rewind the link and watch that last 1 minute or before the squad eventually in the added on time. Yeah, and oh my God. You know that feeling when you shiver, when you get butterflies? See, that pain you have, it was, well, it's indescribable, but it was, our boys were hard done.
I think if Dungu was here, would have given us a very perfect relationship analogy to fit that moment.
We were hard done by, let's put it bluntly, we were hard done by 2 refereeing calls. Me personally, I've sat down and I've watched it a little bit. There were 2 calls. Maybe I'll add a third. The first one was let's build back the sequence of play. Player is tackled into touch. Germany line out. Germany wins the line out. We give away a penalty.
On their 5. The line out was
the
a
5. Then we give away another penalty, I think in the 10 offside.
Yeah.
Then one of their wingers takes a mad run, a double tackle by Aaron and Michael. Aaron is the one who you could say held him, and Michael, you could see a little bit of daylight. Not even a little bit, was daylight in between the tackle and the release. You could see. Now Michael goes in for the tackle. He goes in, he steals the ball, and the ref says holding on. What happens? Germany scores a try. Now when Germany is scoring the try, there is the aspect of the hooter. Now if you watched it live, you could not necessarily hear the hooter. But there's the aspect of the timer. You could see when the guy got the ball down. Actually, when it's on 0, he's actually still running.
He's still in the
Yeah.
motion.
He's
of
still in
going.
motion, running.
So he
to
scored
score the
about
try. So he scored on
negative.
negative 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
And even just says, no, we don't want the kick, we're going back to what? To kick off. And that's the first thing where we passed that to Kwaro and we're like, okay, you know what? I think the time is up. They said there's still time for a kick off. Now this is where my third thing comes in. And I'm sure we'll get that clip of the kick off. When the kick off, Kisiga jumps up for the ball.
The kick
And
is
if you
short.
notice, they
The
took
kick
him
is
out in
short.
the air.
But there was
There's
also
a little bit of
took
contact
Kisiga
in the air,
out in
and
the
as a
air.
result of that, what happens? He knocks the ball on. So the ref says knock on.
The kick was short.
Yeah.
2010.
I also saw that I saw tweets about that the kick was short. So for me, the thing I saw is that Siga jumps up for the ball and then is kind of taken out in the air.
Yeah.
And you could
He was
see that
played in the
he
air.
was played in the air, and that was not called. It was something what was very, very fishy to me. And then the heartbreak happens and we end up losing the game. Now to testify and show how we were hard done by the refereeing calls. Our coach Tony is a very calm man. But that small clip of like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
where you see the guy real telling one of the officials, you could see the guy was really livid, man. Our chance disappeared, and the guy who won the tournament is the guy we beat in the first game.
Uruguay.
That's the thing that hurts even the most.
I know.
Yeah, so man, that tournament,
Okay, I'd like to play devil's advocate.
Mm.
It was 14-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could have buried that game. That line out that changed the game, because it was a 3v1 situation. Isaac Massa, Michael Okoroch, and Timothy Siga.
Yeah.
All Massa needed to do was send the ball out
Yeah.
to Michael, through the hands to Siga. We score in the corner. 19-0. 14-0, those are 2 tries. Teams hardly come back from 3 tries down.
Yeah.
Hardly.
Yeah.
Very, very
So
rare.
hard, yeah.
The teams come back from 3 tries down. So we could have buried that game. Yes, fine, we were cheated. The truth of the matter is, even me, my feelings initially is that we were cheated. But when you're in a situation where Uganda was at that moment, yeah, you learn to play against all odds. And we've seen it we can do it at our clubs. There are teams where you be playing some games and they are saying the ref is going to favor this team. So you leave nothing to chance.
Right.
At the breakdown, you just say do not contest. And teams, when they are training, they say back foot, take 1 step back. Even when the back foot is here, take another step back. No 50-50 because you don't leave anything to chance. It's unfortunate that we were hard done by those calls, but we left that tiny bit. We left that room for rigor for such things to happen to us. Because I think in the lead up, from the time Germany moved from their own 5 to our 5, we had given away like 5 penalties.
Yeah.
There were a lot of
We
penalties.
kept- yeah, we
also
kept
given
away
away.
many
I remember
penalties,
them.
yeah.
The first
And-
one was Casito in the 5. Second one was an offside call on the side. And
Umeme
then
wamekataa.
we had the aspect of the Michael thing,
Yeah.
the mistake. Now start from
Yeah.
the kickoff.
And now it's like a desperate situation. You know when you're hanging on for the win, yeah?
Yeah.
And that desperate situation, I feel like it's unfortunate. Like looking back, yeah, we have the benefit of hindsight. Looking back, I don't know what the players could have done better in trying to win that game there and then. Because with I think with 30 seconds left to play, we were still 14. We were still
14-5.
14-5. 14-5. They scored 2 tries in 30 seconds. We left.
I think it
it's
was even
painful.
less than 30 seconds.
I spent,
because I was
spent
sure.
2 hours awake. Like, because I knew, like, I'm going to watch this game, write the report, then go to sleep. But I was in so much pain that I didn't sleep that night.
Man, sleep
Yeah.
was hard.
It was hard to sleep.
was very
Yeah.
painful
But when
night.
later, after all the grief and all the stages of grief, after I accepted that we had lost the game, I sat back and asked myself, but how did we get here? And I realized that we left many things to chance, which gave whatever conspired against us an opportunity to happen.
Now I'll ask you, going forward against Samoa, and I'm thinking even next year, because I'm sure we'll be able to reach the HSBC Challenger Series next year. What do you think in such, we have showed that we have grown. Now what about on those aspects? Do you think the last 3 minutes of the game against Germany should be our blueprint entering the new year?
First of all, the one thing that, fine, Uganda is a team that's very entertaining. Yeah, and that is the one thing that puts the attention to us, and we need that. Our players need that. But if you look at championship winning teams, they hardly appear in highlight reels.
Yeah.
You will very rarely see Australia, who won both men and women, who won the 7 series. You will hardly see them in highlight reels. Just go out there, do the ugly business, win and walk away. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's not who we are. Let me call it like our character is we will express ourselves. Our players will express themselves. But we need to start being ruthless.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to start. You go there, scrum down, run straight, score the try. And it's easy for me to say these things from here. I'm not a player. It's easy for me to say these things. But then we need to be as clinical and efficient as possible, so that once we've done all those things, we do not leave anything to chance. That hope step you're trying to make to shake an opponent instead of passing the ball, that let me say that big powerful tackle that you're trying to make and it ends up being a high tackle and that's a yellow card. You're trying to flip a guy. You know, some of those things. Just do the simple stuff. I think that like this is a lesson that we shouldn't have learned, because it was our best shot for the HSBC series.
Yeah.
It was a painful lesson that shouldn't have learned. But now that it has come, I feel, and I know our players who have worked for close to 7 years, we look back at this and it will inspire them to even give it another good shot. It will need to reach a point whereby we win games. We don't leave anything to chance, whether in attack or in defense. Go there, do your job, and then just leave. Whether our fans will be happy or not, the fans do not care if you're winning. Yeah, and some of the times it's just because this time I could say Uganda is a bit more united now watching our national team play. But there are times when you would lose and then the players are being abused just because we've lost a game. And there's people are testing their mental health for losing. Already they've lost. It's already testing their mental health. But then they're getting a lot of slack. They're taking a lot of backlash from the people who have watched them. But when you win, whether you've won by 1 point or by 2 points, everyone is happy.
A win is a win.
Yeah, so I think that's the one thing that we just don't need to leave anything to chance. It's easy for me to say that from here. Yeah, I cannot compete with those players, but I know that the moment we turn that page, where we are now looking at the business, like you remember how we played the Africa Cup. Business, just go there, score, keep scoring, just make the tackles, walk away. Yeah, and then after that, that's when we start seeing the guys are enjoying themselves. That attitude is what we'll need to carry forward in the other tournaments. And I'm certain that with how the team has played and the core of the team, of the 9 players, and then now these guys who are being phased in, it will take maybe some time. After the World Cup, we go into the next World Cup cycle. It will take maybe like a year or two, and then we will have another very good shot. If we can keep our players in, this core of players in, for this year and then maybe next year, I think that in the next 2 years we shall have another very good shot for the HSBC World Series.
Maybe a fun fact is that one of the coaches of the Germany team was Philipp Snyman. You can understand why Domos doesn't reach.
Yeah, but and I think probably, but Uganda still played better. I think it was the best game that you could have played.
Yeah,
against
I was
what
actually
Germany.
very
So
confident that second time meeting Germany, we're beating them.
Yeah. If we could have played against Germany with them being coached by a person who knows us, a person who spent 2 weeks with us, I think, Philipp Snyman, and we still performed that well, I think it goes to show the level where Uganda has reached. But we are at a level whereby 5 years, 7 years ago, when it was good for us to go, and then we entertained with the likes of Eric Kasita, our captain. We won the Africa Cup with him, qualified for the World Cup with him. With the likes of Ramadan Govule, when Echodu was still a 7th player, Keith Seriange on the wheels, where it was nice to show up and play. Uganda has moved a level whereby we can no longer be proud of we drew against Australia. Because you remember that draw against Australia. We left that game. The players and us were feeling we should have won the game.
We should have won.
We have reached a level whereby we now expect to win.
Yeah.
And now the challenge is on, have we won, where have we not won? And then the next step is, what do we do to ensure that we keep winning? We keep winning.
Yeah.
And we have done that on the African level, whereby we can go for a tournament and not reaching the final and winning it is a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
the team Just one more thing. The team set its own targets, and in the press releases with World Rugby, Coach Tolbert mentioned it, Michael Crouch mentioned it. We set a target of getting out of the pool stage in the Commonwealth Games. We fell short of the target. And they recognize that. They say, fine, but there are some wins, there are some positives that we can take to Chile. The target for Chile was winning the final. We did not reach. And that we fell off the mark that we had wanted. But that same mentality that using the Commonwealth Games as springboard for Challenger Series, I'm sure that the setup with Coach Tolbert and his players and then his technical support will use some of these the experiences from World Series to prepare for the World Cup, which is in 3 weeks. And I think I expect a very good performance, win a few games at the World Cup from Uganda.
Yeah, definitely. The boys, I'm sure, learnt a lot. Personally, me, I think also one of the few places they need to pick up on is the restarts. We started with having very good restarts back in Birmingham, but then somehow we seem to have a very hard challenge in getting our own ball, especially when they put that short kick in the middle. There's a very big challenge there. But I'm sure that the boys will look. But they came back today, received like the champions that they are. A lot of hugs, a lot of moments that make many of us say, "Hey, mama, must be nice." Yeah, but it's great to see the boys back. They can get some rest, and then maybe they can switch their mindset onto the Rugby World Cup. But in the interest of time, gentlemen, no rugby this weekend locally. What are you guys going to be doing with your weekend? Just in a few seconds, each of you, starting with you, Ernest.
I will watch replays of rugby games.
RIP social life.
My life is too much into rugby, and I think there's the rugby championship, so I'll watch that.
Yeah.
But then, if there's no rugby, we'll just look for some rugby to do. Maybe the national team players will be somewhere, so we'll just go and
I
meet.
recommend you whatever. You play some rugby challenge maybe on video game if you're a gamer.
Yeah, perhaps.
Bruno?
I'll be at the Rugby Chill.
Yeah.
There's a welcome party for the 7th players who are back.
That's
And
Friday,
then
right?
There will be some training and some touch rugby. So I'll be at
Oh yeah, that's great. Edwin, Rugby Chill. I think
Rugby Shield is the place.
I think you know where
Some FPL.
you know where to find the fat cats. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. We had something we left out, but in the interest of time, we shall carry it forward and hopefully have Ernest back as well. But thank you for your time yet again. For all those that are watching, thank you for subscribing. For those that have not yet subscribed, please click the button so that we can continue to engage you and share with us what your experiences are. Don't forget to follow us on social media. There's a lot more coming from the Fat Cats brand. So just from us here today, we're wishing you all the best. Cheers.